Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to old subs. Welcome to welcome to old subs. Welcome to your new subs. If you're not subbed, do me a favour, click sub. So back from Morzine. I've got fur all over like my new bike parts. I wanted to do this before I went away, and I was actually just going to do this really quickly and not make a video about it, but then I did a poll and lots of you wanted me to run through this with you. So today I'm putting on a new cassette. So it goes all the way from a 9-tooth up to a 44, and the one I've got on at the moment is a SRAM cassette, and that's a 10 to a 42. So this will give me, well, an easier gear to ride up hills and a harder gear to ride down hills. And I did recently change to the GRX crankset, which is a 40 tooth rather than a 42 tooth, which is what I had on before. So whilst I gained a bit of ease going up a hill, I did lose that top end speed. Not that I really noticed, but the E13 one has got a small cog and a big cog. So, I mean, just generally better, right? Today I'm going to run through removing a cassette and installing a cassette on an XD driver. They're both different types, so you know you do need the specific tools to do these. And the E13 one is a really funky one, which I'll show you in a minute. And I'm going to put a new chain on. And then because I'm putting a new sprocket on, I'm going to re-index all my gears. So first things first, I do need to show you this, right? Normally with cassettes, and you just see my old video, you just use your cassette removal tool. So you use a lock whip to hold it in place, and then you use the cassette removal tool. Because essentially it's in two parts. So you have like this steel lower, and then I think it's an aluminium like top three sprockets. So it kind of like slots together, and you need a special tool to get it in. More gravel bike upgrades, I guess. Right, so I'm supposed to go through everything. First things first then, it's going to be taking the old cassette off. Right, so the tools you'll need are a cassette removal tool, chain whip device. This is by Feedback Sports, by the way. And then an Allen key to remove your rear wheel. If you're taking your back wheel off, really easy tip, put it in the smallest sprocket, and it just means that when you take it out, you don't have like as much tension on the chain, and it's much easier to do. So let's do that, I guess. So as you can see, it's in the smallest cog here. So when you take your wheel out, it will just fall out a lot easier. Whereas you notice if you've got it in higher ones, it's a bit of a pain. So one thing I will say is a lot of you ask me about disc brakes and the rubbing and the noises they make. Disc brakes do make a noise. That's just, you know, the way they are. You kind of can get it to make no noise, but you'll notice when you put brand new pads in, there can be a tiny bit of rubbing, and after a little bit of use, often it goes away. But if by any chance you pull your brake whilst doing all of this and you're running disc brakes, you can just put something like in there, like a tyre lever, use something plastic, and you can kind of pry and push the pads open. So what that does is that pushes the pistons, like it resets them. So don't be scared of taking your wheel out when you run disc brakes, but you'll see now it just pops out really easily. There you go. And when you're undoing the cassette, it always goes the same way that it freewheels. So for me to unscrew this, I'd have to turn it this way. So the same way as it spins. So you will need a chain tool to hold that cassette in place to stop it turning. So you'll have one hand holding that and the other hand turning it down. Let's do that now. So if you haven't got an XD driver, you'll have like the slot-on cassette, and essentially it's exactly the same. Rather than the whole cassette unscrewing, there's a lock ring at the end, like a cap, and you use, a lot of the time you use the same size tool, and you just pop it in the middle like that, and then you'll push down to remove it. That's essentially it. It can be quite tight, you know, I mean it is meant to be tight. And then it's just simply a matter of just unscrewing it. The reason this one doesn't have an end cap and an XD driver is the way it is because that way they can get a smaller cog in. I think Shimano can only run an 11 because of the end cap. See, that just pops off. Simple, right? Like, and that's your cassette removed. Simple, and then when you're installing, you just need a tiny bit of grease. And also the slot-on hubs you'll get, so Shimano and SRAM are the same, and Campagnola have a different shape, so they're not cross-compatible, but Shimano and SRAM are. Right, so as I was saying, this E13 one, it's really weird, you know. I don't know if you can see this, hopefully you can. So essentially, it splits in half like this. And there's a little lock ring here. Can you see that? And that's what tightens it all in place. I did try and take this off with various other tools, and you do actually need the E13 tool to take this off. This is a bottom bracket and cassette tool, and it fits straight in the other one. But they were like they're about 40 quid or something silly. But I kind of figure once it's on. I did buy it second hand off eBay, so it only cost me a tenner, so that's really good. So I guess I'm going to put this cassette on, and let's see how it all slots together. Slot on there, and then this is the lock ring. And that would, fingers crossed, just screw in. There you go, so it's a matter of just popping your bottom bracket tool on, the lock ring on, and then tightening it up. You want these nice and tight. I think it's about 40 Newton meters or something, which is like a fair old weight. I haven't got a torque wrench that like works for this, but basically just do it really tight. That little line right there, that lines up with, you see these? So it's got a lock and unlock, and so that's how you know with this one. Generally not sure how hard to press this. Oh, there we go. And that seems to be locked in place. Sick, right? Right, so that's the rear cassette on. There's all different ways to size chains, and I'll run through them in a second, but now, yeah, let's bang the wheel in and yeah, carry on. What you're looking for is this little link here, right? And this is a quick link, so it will look different to the rest of them. Let me see if I can show you closely. Right, it's filthy, but you can see how these have like rivets, like 2 rivets, and this one looks a bit different. It's got like a slidey bit. You literally just put it in, give it a squeeze, and that is the joy of a magic link. So these tools are awesome. Right, so when you're sizing a chain, it varies on different bikes, you know, whether you're using a 1x, I think a 2x if you've got suspension, and if you're running a mountain bike with a chain device. I suppose what I should say is the easiest way, right, is if you're replacing a chain for an old chain, you know it works fine because that's the chain that was on the bike essentially, right? So it'll be the right length. So you can just measure. So that's what I'll actually do. I'm just going to measure this against my old chain, and that will give me the right length. But if you don't have that and you're fitting a new chain, you don't have your old chain, what essentially you do is wrap it around the biggest cog at the back and the biggest at the front, or the only one at the front for a gravel bike. You find where it overlaps, so it should overlap nicely. Put it tight, which would be to there, and then you want to count down 4 bolts and you cut on the 4th bolt. With a road chain set, you'd only do 2 rivets, so that'd be like 1 whole link you'd add in. But most of you, honestly, you're going to be changing a chain on a bike that you've already had a chain on. So don't just throw the old chain away. Get your chain breaker, take the old chain off, and then just measure it, and that's the right size, you know. So that's the easiest way. If I were doing this for the first time, I would be cutting it, I'd count down 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'll be cutting on the 4th. Right, chain tool, get loads of different types. You know what to say. You pop your chain in. So if you have one that has multiple little slits in it here, can you see that? Like little slits in across there. Put it on the one near the thick end here, because as soon as you tighten it up, if you haven't put it in the right place, you'll break all of the channels for the chain. Right, so I've marked my chain where I want to break it, because, well, I keep getting distracted and chatting to Juliet. So, essentially, pop the chain in, tighten it through. It'll be a bit stiff at the start, and then it'll just pop. There you go, and that means that the pin has like been dislodged. Dislodged? Yeah, and you just screw it all the way out until the pin pops out the other side, or you feel it go all loose. If you're running a 1x, just count 4 rivets as long as it ends up on the male to male. If it doesn't, back off 1 and do 3. Yeah, 2 ends like that. So you want the gears shifted over as far as possible, so it will be on the smallest. Wrap that around, get it in the right place. If you're running a narrow wide, it will only go on in one place. And this is where you have to take care. So there's a little piece of metal in here, and you want to go in front of the first one and then behind the second one, but take care that you don't get caught up in any of these funny little bits of metal that are inside that are spacers, because it will still kind of work, but it will make a load of noise, and it's not good for the chain or the drivetrain. And I think I've done it the wrong way. I've done it the wrong way. So that's not what you want to do, right? What you want to do is, right, the chain should go behind that and then down through this wheel, and then it's just a matter of, you can take the chain off at the front and get your magic-y link. It's got an arrow on it, so you know which way it goes, and the arrow points the way of the drivetrain. But you should be able to do now, I'm trying to do this really awkward so you can see it, is you put it apart, and you see it just slides in, and that means it's together. Put your chain on, and there we go. Brand new chain installed, it's not snagging on anything here, it'll go through all the little bits and bobs that you're meant to go through, hopefully. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to index all the gears, and that's really simple. I don't really need to index them, but it's a really good thing to do when on trail side, so let's go through that. So let's take the cable out to start with, just so it's like fully reset, right? Undo your cable, right, that cable's out. Yeah, there's no tension, it's in the smallest cog, there's no ticking noise at all. So if I were to tighten this one here, for example, the limiter, that would push my derailleur, as you can see, in, and it's actually moved it up one sprocket. That would tell you that I'd need to come back a bit. So if you're never getting in your smallest gear, take off all the tension, look at the screws for the limiters, and then slowly back it off. Oh, and bang my spokes. You'll see the derailleur move over, and then essentially it should just drop into the smallest sprocket. You want the chain in the middle of the derailleur when it's on the smallest sprocket, and that basically means that's your set point for lowest gear. or hardest gear. Is it low or hard? Before I put any tension on the cable, it's really important to get your barrel adjuster. And I tighten mine in all the way, then I do back it out like a quarter turn or half turn, just so it gives me a bit of movement either way. Rear mech is in line with my limiter screw, everything seems all nice there. So just getting this cable here, and you literally just put it tight. It doesn't have to be crazy tight actually, you just do it finger tight. Get your tool, I mean the tighter the better realistically, so you want to give it a good pull. Tighten it up. And then if you see it's a bit slack here, you can literally, this is when you use the barrel adjuster and you just put it. Right, so now, it should just be like a little light shift to move up one. Move up one. Right, so you see it's skipping here. So that means I will need to adjust my barrel. So it's a little bit jumpy, so what I'm going to do is just put some more tension. So I'm going to turn my barrel adjuster anti-clockwise until that noise stops. And you see if you keep turning it, look, it will start jumping again. So if you don't know which way to turn it, keep turning it, and if it starts going to try and go onto the sprocket above, well, you've turned it too much. So turn it the other way. And I want it to sit on my second sprocket, so turn it down so it sits on there. Nice and snugly. Seems good. Thanks for tuning in again. Any questions, let me know below. If there's any particular bike maintenance videos you'd like me to do, leave them below. I'm dreading you saying installing a new gear cable purely because like a lot of the time you have to untape your bars and I hate having to retape my bars. But I'll do it for you guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.